Hello and welcome everyone. It's a very special episode for Think Big and Be Inspired show. Please tell us where you're tuning in from. And today, to introduce our megastar guest, I think she is, of course, had a lot of. She did not have it easy. She passed through a lot of suffering, but she really deserves where she is right now. She's the podcast princess, and she's young and profitable. So please allow me to welcome Hala Taha. Hala, how are you
Hi.
doing?
Hi, Ahmed. How are you? Excited to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
I'm so excited to have you on the show. Thank you for coming in, and we will enjoy our time. And we have a lot of people already coming in. Muhammad Rashad sending his regards. Thank you, Muhammad, for joining us. Hala, if we start with your journey, I know you had a dream of joining Hot 97 radio, and radio was a big thing back in the days. Tell us about this story. I know you joined as an intern, so take us through this amazing story.
Yeah, sure, of course. Thank you for doing your research. So, I started my career in radio while I was in college. And so, my junior year of college, I was actually a singer and I wanted to be a singer and I was
Wow.
recording music and stuff. And so, I wanted an internship at a radio station thinking that I would be pushing my music to the DJs. But little did I know that it would set off the rest of my life in terms of my love for broadcasting and radio. So, I got an internship at Hot 97. I was working in the production department. I did a great job. They then promoted me to work on the Angie Martinez show. And for those of you who are not from the New York area, the Angie Martinez show is the number one hip hop and R&B show in the world. It was at the time. She's no longer at Hot 97. So it was like the biggest show on the biggest station. And I was the only girl in the studio area. And I would meet famous people every single day. Kim Kardashian, J-Lo, Jay-Z,
Wow.
Drake, you name it, I've met them all. And I would be the one like prepping them, doing all the research for Angie, running the phones, running the contests. I would record commercials. And I ended up working there full time and quitting. I guess temporarily dropping out of college. And so my parents were like devastated because all my siblings were like, I'm the youngest. And so all my siblings were in med school and doing rotations. And here I am dropping out of college to intern at a radio station for free. And I would make money at night hosting showcases and parties and going to the clubs with the DJs. And during the day, I would work absolutely for free. I had, everybody thought I was this big shot at Hot 97 because I was in the studio area, because my job was so important and so like celebrity facing. But little did they know that I was actually technically not an employee and just had key cards and wasn't getting paid. So one thing led to another. It was about 3 years into working at Hot 97. And one of my friends who worked in the video department um, got a job as the producer for the Angie Martinez show. So our producer got fired and there was an open position. And I had been doing the job temporarily. And I was always the assistant producer. I was the one doing the research, doing the contests, running the boards. And I did everything for the DJs and for Angie Martinez. I would get them coffee. I would feed the meters. I would babysit Angie Martinez's kids. I literally went shopping for her, would buy her nail polish or dry shampoo, whatever she needed. I was like her little girl that would like run around and do everything for her and for the DJs. So a paid job opened up and I was like, at this point, my parents were really upset with me. I had dropped out of school and I was like, I at least need to get paid minimum wage for like working here every single day. Right. And they ended up giving the job to someone else. And I was really upset that like an open job came up and they didn't give it to me. Granted, I was super young. Maybe I didn't deserve to be the producer, but I deserved minimum wage. And it was just, I just had a breaking point. So I text messaged, my friend Drewski, who, if you guys are from New York, you probably heard of him. He's on the radio all the time now. He's like blew up since then, which is just so funny. And I texted him like, hey, I don't feel like going to work today. If you want to figure it out, like figure it out on your own, just like I did. And Angie saw that text, was super pissed off, and she fired me. She fired me on the spot. She cut my key card. She told everyone they can't talk to me anymore. She kicked me out of the station. I wasn't allowed there anymore. And it was all because one day I said, I don't feel good. I'm upset. I don't want to come into work. Didn't give me the benefit of the doubt, just cut me off cutthroat. That's it. So I was devastated. I felt like somebody died. I felt like a part of my identity had died. I had gave and sacrificed so much for this job. I had went against my family. I was the black sheep of my family. Now I had no job, no brand behind me. I had nothing, and I was back at zero. And so very quickly I decided that I'm not going to let, anybody tell me that I'm not going to be successful. I'm not going to let this person kind of dictate the rest of my life. She wanted to just kind of cut me out of the industry, and that's it. And she thought that that's it. I was dead. She's probably so going crazy that I'm blowing up right now, honestly. And she has tried to follow me on Instagram and stuff, but I'm not responding to her because she's probably like, oh shit, now word's going to get out that I treated her so horribly. And yeah, you did. So it's karma to you, right? And so anyway, I ended up starting something called the Sorority of Hip Hop. And that weekend, after I got fired, I was like, you know what? There has to be other women in the entertainment industry that are going through this too, and that have been abused and not given opportunities, and have that was the whole industry, especially back then, the music industry. It was like work for free, and like you'll get something one day, you'll become a star one day. Like that's everybody worked for free. So I quickly recruited 14 girls, and I decided I was going to start the Sorority of Hip Hop, and we were going to be a platform for women empowerment. And we had a blog, radio shows, we hosted parties, concerts, and I ended up going back to college. Within 3 months, we were one of the most popular hip hop and entertainment sites in the world. We started hosting parties with all the DJs. The DJs started reaching back out to me. Now I used to, get them coffee, feed them meters. And now I was side by side with them on the flyers, hosting these parties, getting paid just as much as them to go to the party and to promote it. And I just, created something out of nothing. I was like, no one's going to stop me. And I created my own lane. And that's one of my biggest lessons that I preach right now, is that if there's a gatekeeper telling you, in my instance, back then, it was Hot 97 telling me, no, you can't get a job here. I don't know what they had against me. I busted my ass, and I worked so hard, and I did a great job. They didn't want to hire me. I don't know why. Maybe it was because of my ethnicity, whatever it was. They didn't want to give me a chance. And so I decided that I'm going to create my own lane. I'm going to create my own path. And I did that with the Sorority of Hip Hop. And I did that for about 3 years. We almost got a show on MTV. I was filmed all summer. And it was an incredible experience. They got us a place on Broadway, like the real world, with neon signs and crazy furniture. I got my makeup done every day. They filmed us on the street at my family's house. I was about to be the next Snooki. I was literally about to be the next Snooki and have my own show. I was the lead on a show on MTV about my business, the Sorority of Hip Hop Strawberry Blunt. And again, another devastating failure. They pulled the plug after filming us all summer, after breaking apart our sorority because we had so much drama for the show. And again, I was left with nothing after, building something up. MTV left everything in pieces when they pulled the plug, and I shut down the website, and I went back to school. I went and got my MBA, and then I went into corporate. And at that point, I thought I would never get back on a mic. I thought that was it. I'm done with the entertainment industry.
That's really an amazing story, and really from struggles we are reborn. And I can see how much you struggled, and sometimes maybe it's because ego of the boss or something. Because I know for sure you gave it all, and it's really hard when for 3 years you're working for free, then suddenly they tell you don't have a place. We don't know why, but I'm sure you did a great job. And it was what happened is that you sent a message because you were frustrated, of course, because you did it all and it was your dream, and you left the college and all that. But it turned out for us, of course, and for all your fans and supporters, great. And it turned for your business great, because you never gave up, and that's a role model really for everyone. And
not for nothing. I didn't realize how little people on the radio get paid. The job that I wanted was $30,000 a year. By the time I was like 26, I was making like triple that. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like, thank God I didn't get that job.
Yes. So it's again, you don't know. Maybe at some point it's a message to everyone. You feel you're devastated, but maybe because your calling is higher, you will reach something higher than that, but you just need to dig deep, like you did, Hala. That's great, and I think Kaiso by that also joining us. He's saying you're a role model to the women in your industry. I totally agree
Oh,
with
thank
Kais.
you.
So if we go to podcasting, and how did you start Yap, and this journey in 1,000 days? You are like having like millions of downloads, and you're on the top of the podcast magazine, and it's really great. And tell us, did you have trials before this podcast? Did you fail in podcasts, or this is like from the first time you got it all and got it all sorted out? Tell
Yeah.
us your story.
Yeah, that's a great question. So,
Yeah.
like I said, I after MTV didn't pick our show and I kind of like failed with my blog, I didn't monetize that blog even though we were so popular in New York, New Jersey. I was so young. I still didn't know what I was doing. I was leading 50 girls. It was so hard. So I shut it down and I went and I got my MBA. I got a 4.0. I got my first corporate job.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so I went into Hewlett Packard and I worked there for 4 years and I kept getting promoted. I got promoted 5 times in 4 years. And like
Oh,
when I got into corporate, I thought I was late because for 3 years after college, I was an entrepreneur. And I thought like all my friends are going to be so ahead of me. I'm going to be like the lowest on the totem pole. And I was really nervous about that. But because I had been so tech savvy and had done so much different stuff. And because I was a young entrepreneur, I really knew how to network. So I almost became like an intrapreneur within the company. And that allowed me to get promoted very quickly. And so I soon passed by my peers, which was great because I was really nervous about that because I kind of entered the corporate world late. So 4 years into it, I was doing some volunteer work for HP. I've always been a very busy person. Like I hate not being busy. And so I had this full-time job. And to kind of get my leadership kick, because I've always been a leader, I was running something called the Young Employee Network. And it's something that I started at Hewlett Packard in my office. And so it's an employee resource group that they have all over the world. And they had 7,000 members. At the time, HP
wow.
was one big company. They had 300,000 people. So it was like this way that I could lead 7,000 people, right? And so I started a chapter in my office and I was the president for 2 years and I started all their holiday parties, their company picnics. I basically created culture at the office. They had no culture and I brought together all the young employees and I was the leader. Then I became a chair on the global board from all the stuff that I did locally. And my next step, actually, let me just give some context. I threw this event called HP Spirit Week, where the whole company participated. I had 500 people help plan. And there was like 500 events during the week that I helped coordinate. It was like this huge event. And I was literally emailing the whole company like I was a CEO every day, multiple times a day for 1 week. So everybody knew my name. I was the face of the young employees at Hewlett Packard. I really rose to the top and I was working directly for the CEO, the CMO. I was like really, really high level at HP. And my next thing that I wanted was to be the president of the Global Young Employee Network. And I deserved it. I started the local chapter. I was president for 2 years. Then I started this. I was on the global board. I paid my dues. I created HP Spirit Week. It was a hit. The whole company was involved. Everybody loved me. All my peers were going to vote for me. People submitted videos for me to win. One thing led to another gatekeeper in my life telling me no.
Yeah.
The HR lead didn't like me. She didn't like me. She picked somebody else who had no experience to be president.
Oh my God.
Zero,
Yeah.
never was on a board, never did anything. And here I was again, like, crap, I just did the same thing.
Yes.
Again, I worked for free for several years to hit a goal, and then they didn't give it to me. And here I am again. What do I have to show for it? I worked literally, they're still using my templates for their events. They're still using all the like frameworks that I put in place. And I get nothing out of it. And I was like, I'm never making this mistake again. The next time I do something like this and it's a side hustle, it's going to be mine. I cannot keep doing work for free for other people. Yes, I got great experiences. Yes, it was a great leadership opportunity, but I could have done it for a year, not 3, right? So I did it for another 3 years working for free as a entrepreneur within the company for their young employee network. So I didn't get that position. The HR director gave it to somebody else. Like I said, a boy who had no experience. They just gave it to him for one reason or another. She ended up leaving the company a month later, and so did I. And so I went to Disney streaming services. Before I did that, I had the idea. I said, you know what? I have all this free time. I was volunteering my time. I don't want to be a leader for just 7,000 people. I want to be a leader to 7 million people. I'm going to
Wow.
start my own podcast and I'm going to call it Young and Profiting. And that's how I can be a leader. And that's how I can impact the world. And this is something I own. So all that time I was spending as an employee trying to benefit the company culture, I shifted that focus onto my podcast and all that time. And look at me now, 3 years later, #1 education podcast, had Matthew McConaughey, episode number 100, was on the cover of Podcast Magazine, almost 100K followers on LinkedIn now. So everything has just proven to be worth it. And I love the fact that there is no gatekeeper who's going to shut this down for me. This is me, my own. I own it. It's mine, and nobody can tell me no.
That's amazing. Of course, yes. And our friend Ahmed Khalid is joining from Saudi. I believe that rejection is a blessing because it's the universe way of telling you that there's something better out there.
Yes, 100%.
100%.
I'm
That's
so
great.
thankful. If I got that
Yes.
president role, I would have never started the podcast, and I would have gotten a job at Disney and been too busy to start it when I was at Disney. So I feel so blessed that they told me no. So blessed.
Yes, it's again, you don't know if something closes, a bigger door is opening and your calling is higher, and it's really evident in your story, 2 times, and it's amazing. Of course, what you did from your entrepreneurial years and working after going out of Hot 97, it helped you a lot in doing what you did in HP.
Yeah, 100%.
Yes. So how if we're talking about but did you manage between Disney and podcasting? I'm sure it was hectic. How did you manage your time?
Oh my gosh, great question. I was such a hustler when I worked at Disney. I look back on it and I'm like, oh my gosh, the amount of recordings that I recorded in that office. So my day would be like this. I would wake up at 6 a.m. I'd work on Young and Profiting for like an hour and a half. I'd hop on the train. I would do my LinkedIn stuff on the train. I had no team, right? So I had volunteers at this point. Actually, that's a lie. I had volunteers since episode 2, but it was like 80% me doing all the work. So I would hop on the train, write my LinkedIn post, and then I'd get to work. If I had an interview that day, I would be lugging around all my equipment on the train. I'm a little petite girl, so it was like very heavy and uncomfortable. I would have like this big backpack on the train. And then, at work, they had no office spaces, like conference rooms. It was really, really hard to get a conference space. So I would like block out like a phone booth. They had these little phone booths in the office, and I would sit there all day just to make sure that I had a quiet space for the podcast interview. I used to have to do audio only because I never really knew if I could turn on the camera or not. I didn't really have like a great space. And I recorded some huge interviews at freaking Disney streaming services offices. Like, it was ridiculous, right? When I worked at HP, I lived 3 minutes away from the office. So I used to be able to just like get in my car during lunch and go home and record and come back, which was easy. But at HP, it was like an hour away from home. Sorry, at Disney, it was like an hour away from home. Yeah. So I literally was running around. There was one time where I recorded in a closet because there was no other space, and I found a closet, and I'm small, and I went in and I freaking recorded my interview in a closet. So like I just like look back at that, and it just makes me laugh because like now I see where everything is, and I'm like, thank God you just hustled and you just didn't make any excuses and you just did it. So anything is possible, guys. If you have a dream, you can create a side hustle like a podcast or a business, and you have the time if you make the time and you want it to be a priority.
Exactly, no excuses. It's amazing stories. I did not know that you recorded something in a closet or something. That's
it was like a janitor's closet, like literally.
So, what's your advice to people who want to start podcasting, as you are now the podcast princess, we can say, and a lot of people, and I think it's a blue ocean still. I think more than 1 million podcasts. Not all of them are active, and not a lot of people are doing like podcasting like 2-3 times a week, as far as I know. And do you have to have your podcast in like the big names, like on Apple, Spotify, or something else? What's your take on that? And we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah. So podcasting, first of all, I want people to understand that it's not easy. Like it's a long road to success. It took me a long time to really see some real downloads, real results, or any money from this. Like I started making money on my podcast a year ago, and it's been going on for 3 years. So the beginning was just like all passion, all just wanting to do good in the world, all good intentions. And you need to know your why for that reason, because there's going to be months and months of slow growth, slow downloads, unless you've got a big budget to put like media buys behind your stuff. For me, I just did it organically, right? So it takes a long time to build up that momentum and that audience. So you need to know your why. My why was all the stuff that I just talked about, which was I want people to level up their life. I want people to learn how to be profiting in their life. I wanted to be a leader. I wanted to connect with people who I otherwise would not get a chance to connect with. I wanted to build my network. All of those things were my why for starting a podcast. It wasn't about money or downloads or anything like that. It was just whoever wanted to listen, I wanted to help, right? So that was my why, and that kept me going. So that's important. In terms of some tactical tips when launching a podcast, you guys want to stand out. That's very important. So whether that's the frequency of when you guys put out your episodes, whether that's your niche or your title, you need to stand out. There's a lot of competition. And so your number one thing should be to stand out. People always ask me like, how long should my podcast be? Or what should it be about? It's like, you need to think about that and think about how you're going to stand out, because there's no magic bullet. I'm not going to say, oh, if you do a 30-minute podcast twice a week, it's going to blow up. Like that's not how it works. You need to stand out. So that's another thing. And then in terms of like launch strategies, if anybody's out there looking to launch a podcast, I would say launch with at least 3 to 5 episodes. People love to binge, and that's going to help boost your ranking. And then make sure you have a group of people that are going to promote and subscribe and write reviews for you the first week. So that's really important to like get some sort of a tribe in some sort of a Facebook group or a WhatsApp group, and have everybody mobilize with some social media content and to write reviews and stuff to give you a big push when you first launch.
That's really some good piece of advice, of course, to have your tribe and people helping you and supporting you. So, yeah. And did you have like before the podcast? Did you have like trials and any failures before that went and was a success for you? Did you try anything else?
Well, Young and Profiting Podcast is like my 5th show, but I never had a
Wow.
podcast before. So when I
Yeah.
was at Hot 97, I used to have radio shows on the side with the DJs. And so it was called online radio shows back then. So it was like dtfradio.net, alistradio.net, bottomlessradio.net. So like it was all these different websites where we would go to a studio, record a show, upload it there. People could watch it live and call in. There's like a call-in show. And then people could also watch it later. So that's online radio. And I had maybe 4 or 5 of those shows before Young and Profiting. Those shows were all about music, celebrities. I would do it with like 5 of my girlfriends. I was the main host, but I still had co-hosts, and it was like more fun about like romance, and we'd play games and stuff. So it was much different than my podcast now. But it taught me how to audio edit, taught me how to promote, taught me how to write a script, got me really natural on the mic. So all of those like experience stacked up on top of each other really helped elevate me for when I did launch Young and Profiting Podcast. Most people start their first episode and are like super embarrassed by it. But like my first episode was great because I had a lot of experience already. So it's like I started off, I think that my level of podcasting ability, like it would be 300 or 400 episodes in terms of my level of where I'm at right now. But we're 100 episodes in, and that's because I had all this other experience beforehand that I kind of got to take with me.
It's amazing. Yeah, I've seen some of the names you've got. You've got a lot of great people on the podcast. Do you have like a favorite episode? For me, I know I am a fan of the show. I will tell you after you answer what's my favorite episode.
Yeah, my favorite episode. I love my episode with Tim Story. That was really great. I really left that episode feeling like so high off life. I love my episode with Matthew McConaughey just because I was Matthew McConaughey. And that's what everybody like introduces me now. They'll be like, here's Hala. And she had Matthew McConaughey on her podcast. So it's like everybody loves to brag about that. So I'll brag about that too. And I loved David Meltzer's first episode, my first episode with Chase Hughes, Hacking Human Behavior. There's so many good ones. We've got such great content on the podcast. What's your favorite episode, Ahmed?
My favorite was two actually. 100 episode, I liked it a lot because it was about your story, about your success. And I've seen that you can handle the show alone. So it was really nice and it was really intense and really emotional. The story has a lot of ups and downs and how you succeeded. I love this episode, and of course Matthew McConaughey, because he's one of my favorite actors, and I like his speech and the Oscars. I think it was one of the best speeches when he got his Oscar, and I've seen
Yeah.
him as like he's normal like us when he was talking, and he was talking about his struggles and how he went in his career from one place to another. It was also one of the great episodes. I liked it a lot.
Cool.
Yeah. So you turned 2020 on its head. I know 2020 was a tough year for you. How did you deep through these struggles to success, to massive success and growth? How
Oh
did
my
you do
gosh.
this? Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how I did it. There's probably a lot of people here who don't know my story from 2020.
Yeah.
So, when 2020 started, my dad had diabetes and he was like in and out of the hospital. And so I was working at Disney streaming services at the time. I had my podcast, and I just had my podcast and my job. I didn't have my marketing agency yet. So my dad was in and out of the hospital in January. In February, he got his toe amputated, and it was like more, kind of chaos, but he was okay, right? He had a scare in the hospital. He had pneumonia, but he ended up getting out and he was okay. And he had to start these like hyperbaric oxygen treatments for his toe amputation to heal. And this was when COVID started bubbling up, and I was begging my parents, don't go, don't go. I spent almost $20,000 and bought them a hyperbaric machine for the house. Too late. They kept like it was too late, and he ended up getting COVID from going to those treatments. And then my mom got COVID and my brother got COVID, and I got a call from my sister in March. Everybody has COVID. We've got to go home and help. Are you coming? You have 2 hours to pack your bags. I didn't have a car because I was in the city. And I said, yeah, I have to go help mom and dad. And so she picked me up. I didn't go back to the Brooklyn for another 3 months. Little did I know it was going to be like some crazy thing. So I go home. We get there. It's like, so everyone is so sick. My dad is literally dying. Like, it was just horrible. And we tried to take care of him. My sister's a doctor. And so I was kind of like the maid, having to clean up and make food for everyone. And we were in the basement, living in the basement. We had to wear masks. We wore masks until we fell asleep because we were so scared. At that time, nobody knew anything about COVID. We thought you could get it from touching stuff, and we didn't know how it is like nobody. We were the first family that had COVID, so like we had no idea. And so I was like, am I gonna die? Like, we were so scared, so I like lived in the basement. I couldn't even go upstairs and get like my like blankets or anything because the whole house was contaminated. We found like old blankets in a closet in the basement, and like that's what we slept in. And we had peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. It was just like a freaking disaster. Like, it was a disaster. And I went from being this like executive at Disney to being a janitor, right? And it was just so hard. And so one thing led to another, and my dad got so sick, we ended up having to take him to the hospital. When he was getting like wheeled to the hospital in the ambulance, he was like, this might be the last, like we were all like, this might be the last time we see each other. They wouldn't let anybody in the hospital. They wouldn't let us visit him. They would barely let us Zoom him in the beginning. It was really, really hard. And I remember just working at Disney, and I got COVID, by the way. So obviously, being in that house with everyone with COVID, I got COVID. I was sick, but nothing serious. It wasn't a big deal. And even after I got COVID, the hospital still wouldn't let us see my dad, even though we already got COVID, which was just insane to be 30 minutes away from the person that you love the most and not be able to see them when they're dying. It's just, to me, that I think that's the most thing that it's like so hard to get over, is that like I couldn't just like hold his hand, So anyway, I'm gonna get emotional, but
Yeah.
I don't remember where I was going with this story, but it was really hard. I remember, working at Disney and having my dad on Zoom, like totally out of it, and having to go to these meetings. And then once the meeting was over and I had time, like trying to sing to him if he could understand me or hear me, and just trying to balance that. But it was very traumatic. And my dad was in the hospital for about a month, just dying in front of my eyes. And my dad, super close and a very, very generous guy, where he grew up in war in Palestine. He was in a room with 6 people his whole life. Like, they lived in one room, his whole family. He only had sunlight to study for school on his walks to school. They had no light, they had no water. He literally came from nothing and got a scholarship, became a surgeon, came to America, started a medical center, became chief of surgery, and put all my cousins through college in Palestine, all his kids through college, some of them through medical school. He was like an angel. He was like an angel of a man. So for me, having to like witness this great, great guy who like only did good in the world have to suffer by himself, like, was just so hurtful for me. And I'm still obviously getting over it and not over it. But nonetheless, when my dad was in the hospital, I met a lady named Heather Monahan. And
Yeah.
Heather Monahan ended up being my mentor. And I briefly mentioned this when I first started Young and Profiting podcast. We were a team of volunteers. So by episode 2, I had Timothy Tan, who is now my business partner. He owns 10% of Yap Media. He joined the team since episode 2. And then as we were growing, we ended up, like, by year 1, we had 10 volunteers, and everybody, like, one person owned guest outreach, one person owned videos, like, and everybody kind of owned their own section of the podcast. And Heather, so I had calls with Heather, and I was showing her like our Slack channel. I was showing her our templates and what we do. And she was like, Hala, you have a business here. Like, you could start an agency tomorrow. Like, what are you doing? Your stuff is as impressive as Gary Vee. Like, why don't you just start doing my videos, start doing my podcast? And I was like, really hesitant about it. I was like, listen, like, my dad's in the hospital. Like, there's so much going on. I can barely even keep up. But it's COVID. I'm at home at my parents, because remember, I was quarantined, and everybody was, my friends and even my boyfriend, nobody wanted to see me because they were scared, because everyone was so scared of COVID. So I was like, well, I am home doing absolutely nothing, and nobody wants to visit me. So maybe I should start a business, right? So I was like, okay. So I was like, sure, I'll do your videos. And then one thing led to another. I took over all her social media. Then I took over all her podcasting. Then I landed a client for like a crazy amount of money, monthly retainer. I landed a huge client, Jason Waller, the CEO of Power Home Solar. Then one thing led to another. And before I knew it, I was working at Disney. My dad passed away, unfortunately, in May. But
So sorry about that. Yeah.
Thank you. Before I knew it, it was the summertime. I was working at Disney streaming. I had 30 plus employees, half of them overseas, half of them US. I had a full-time US employee and full-time overseas employees. I was generating multi-6 figures already. And I was still working at Disney. And by the time I left Disney, it was February 1st. I had like maybe 10 full-time employees. And then I was like, Clubhouse came out, and I was like, I need more time for Clubhouse. I'm quitting Disney. And that was it.
Wow, it's a really emotional ride, and really great how you managed to flip it around. And now I know, where did you get your resilience from? It's from your dad. May his soul rest in peace. I'm sure he's happy now, watching you growing.
I hope so. I feel like he's the one that's really putting me in all these places. I don't even know how I got the cover of Podcast Magazine. Like, yes, I have a huge podcast, but I feel like maybe he had something to do with it too. So.
Yeah, and it's always, even if you have to be open to be coachable. And of course, it was great that you met. Shout out to Heather Monahan. Of course, she's great, confidence creator. Of course, big. I'm sure a lot of people also know her and know her work and her TEDx speeches. She's amazing.
Wonderful. Mm-hmm. And she's still my client. She's a great person. She's my mentor. She's my client. And I'm super blessed, because honestly, my clients all are my mentors now. It's just like a really, really power thing. Thank you so much, Ahmed Khalid. You should write a book.
Um,
I think
I'm with
so.
him. Yes, this
I
should
think
be on
so.
your plan. If I ask you what's your plan in 2021, you should do that because really it will be a bestseller in my opinion.
Oh,
Because
thank
your
you.
story is really inspiring.
Thank you.
Yeah. What's your plans in 2021 for Yap, and is there any other plans for any other business?
Oh my gosh, Yap Media is like exploding. It
Great.
is. It is just exploding. Opportunities left and right. Right now, we're really like jumping on Clubhouse sponsorship. So I'm really big on Clubhouse now. I have access to all the biggest rooms, the biggest clubs. And so getting those rooms sponsored and becoming a liaison for other influencers and brands.
Wow.
Because we get a lot of brands sponsoring our podcast, and then we can tell them about Clubhouse and kind of like loop them in there. And so that's been like a really
Great.
big project that we've been working on. Also, lots of media buying for podcasters and just becoming like a dominating force when it comes to media buying and podcasts. Not many people know how to do it. And I've kind of teamed up with some great people in the industry, like Jordan Herbinger is another top podcaster, and Chris Krimitos, who is a CEO of Podfast. And we've created a little group where we do media buying for podcasts. So that's been really exciting. And just like speaking opportunities, like TEDx in the works, just all
Great.
these kind of things. Just really excited and just excited to see my company grow. I think we're creating influencers every single day. Like so many of our clients are like really blowing up, and it just goes to show like we know what we're doing when it comes to social media and podcasting. I've gotten a bunch of my clients to #1 in their category, 3 of them
Yes.
other than me. So know what we're doing when it comes to media buying too. And it's just really exciting stuff. I just can't wait to continue to grow the company, to maybe have a conference soon, like a mastermind, courses, like all that kind of stuff is in the works.
I think it's going to be like I feel it's going to be like 7 figures with your passion and with the people
We're already
working with
at
you.
we're already at
Yeah.
$1 million in annual recurring revenue already today.
Wow. That's amazing. It's a very good start, considering that it's still not long time that you've been with.
Since July only.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
it's huge.
So it's a huge start, of course. And tell us before we go. Tell us about Clubhouse, because all the hype about Clubhouse, and it's now I think it's valued at $1 billion. I
Yeah,
heard.
Clubhouse is
Yeah,
huge. So
it's getting huge. Tell us how can people, because not a lot of people on it. What's the
yeah,
opportunity in it, and how to monetize in it? And
yeah.
tell us like brief about it.
Okay, I'll try to give you like a 5-minute summary of Clubhouse.
Yes.
So Clubhouse is something that they're calling drop-in audio. And
Yeah.
this is going to be a huge trend. It is the future of social media. It is the future of podcasting. And so Clubhouse right now, it's an iOS app, like you said, valued at $2 billion actually, and has
Wow.
12
That's
million users right now.
Yeah.
And it's a super popular app. Some people are spending like 40 to 80 hours a week on the app. People are
Wow.
treating it like it's their job.
Yeah.
And essentially what it is, it's like a Zoom on steroids. You can go in there, you can have a live event, you can bring up people up for Q&A and kind of have an engaging time. They just started a tipping feature where basically if you're a moderator on the app or in a room, people can tip you and start paying you for
Wow.
your services and for the value that you provide. And so that just recently got turned on. And essentially it's just a great way to network. I have accelerated my career by going on this app. So I'll just give you guys an example. I am big on LinkedIn, and I was never big on Instagram. I was not even focused on it. And so LinkedIn was always my platform, and I knew like everyone on LinkedIn because I like networked and created like back channels for LinkedIn and knew all the influencers on LinkedIn. Once I got on Clubhouse, now it's like I've met all these influencers from TikTok and Instagram and all these different places that are podcasters that I have a lot in common with. So it's like all of a sudden my network just like exploded, of
Wow.
all these different people, Instagram stars, TikTok stars. And as a result, my Instagram has like tripled since I got on Clubhouse. It went from 4K to almost 14K now. And it was just because of the influence of Clubhouse and me meeting all these influencers, and the fact that, you know, Instagram is linked to your Clubhouse profile and everything like that. So that's been like some side bonus of it, but it's been amazing expanding my network. And the people that I've met, I feel like it's people that would have taken me 3 years to meet all these people, and I met them in 3 weeks. And so the opportunity has just like exploded, and it's overwhelming the amount of business ideas and sponsorships available, and just like opportunities. It's like we're drowning in opportunity because everything's just happening so fast.
Wow, like Kais is saying, yes, it's amazing to know all this information about Clubhouse. I've been like on it like not for long, but now I know a lot about it from this explanation of yours for 5 or 10 minutes. So yeah, I think it's a really big opportunity to be active there, and it's great, of course, to know all this information from you, and your story, and how you're using Clubhouse to gain access to other social medias, as you've been active on LinkedIn, and I've seen, of course, LinkedIn. You have like almost 100,000 followers now, and people love what you do. I personally love your posts, and of course, follow all your posts and podcasts.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, it's really great to have you today. I don't want the show to end because you bring in a lot of values. I'll make sure maybe we have a second episode somewhere somehow,
Yeah.
because really a lot to learn from you, and I'm so happy that I was able to have you on the show, and you're really friendly and kind to share with us all this experiences that you passed through.
Yeah, 100%. Happy to come on whenever you want me. It was so great to meet with you guys all. For everybody who's tuning in live, if you're not yet, please follow me on LinkedIn. Message me. I'll try to accept your connection if you're listening right now. I don't have that many left, but I will try to accept your connection if you let me know you found me on Ahmed's show. And if you guys haven't yet, check out Young and Profiting Podcast. We are frequently ranked as a #1 trending education podcast, and it's for a reason. I do my research. There's no fluff. It's always a great conversation, always a great guest, and you guys will get incredible amounts of value from it. So please check out Young and Profiting Podcast.
Yes, please tune in to Young and Profitable podcast. You will take a lot of values. I've been following it for some time now, and I actually is how we connected when I told you about like your 100th episode, and gave you a review there. It was really touching, and I'm so happy that we managed to connect. I value your connection, value your time, and thank you so much for being with us, and thank you for everyone who tuned in. I hope we gave a lot of good values to everybody through this show. And thank you, Hala. I wish you all the success in 2021. And I'm so happy to connect with you again. And let's keep in touch. And thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you. Thank you. See you. Thank you, Frank Meta, for joining on the last seconds. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Take care.